Well, hello everybody. My name is Mike McMeekin, and a long time ago I went to the University of Nebraska and got my degree in civil engineering. And over the course of many years, I've had the opportunity to work on all kinds of civil engineering projects. The people you're going to hear from on the video today are all part of the team at Rynearson. Rynearson is a company headquartered in Omaha with about 160 employees. We employ all kinds of civil engineers, landscape architects, planners, and surveyors, and other types of employees that are needed to support the business. The work we do is centered on all types of infrastructure that is important to people and important to communities. We design roads, streets, airports, trails, water treatment and water distribution, wastewater collection and treatment, stormwater facilities and flood protection facilities, parks, and any kind of civil infrastructure that you can think of. We want to focus today on how the work of people in architecture, construction, and engineering, and landscape architecture positively impacts people and the communities that people are part of. With respect to engineering, which is what I know the most about, people often think of engineers as just needing to be good at math and sitting in their offices doing calculations. Well, the fact of the matter is that the work we do impacts people, and we need to be able to interact with people to do the best job we possibly can at our projects at meeting the needs of those people. Throughout my career, I've had many opportunities to work on projects that have had positive impacts in communities. Early on in my career, I worked on the design of water systems for rural areas, including a rural area in the middle of South Dakota, in the middle of nowhere, really. I also got the chance to work on a flood control project for the city of Fremont, Nebraska. Later on, I got the opportunity to be a part of the largest project that Rynearson has worked on, which was the infrastructure around the CHI Health Center and the riverfront redevelopment area in downtown Omaha. We designed streets, parking lots, bridges, trails, huge underground sewers, a park, and a marina on the Missouri River. A great project that's had a tremendous impact, positive impact on Omaha for many years. Most recently, at the other end of the scale, I've had the opportunity to work with others from Rynearson on designing water systems for rural areas in South Sudan, areas where the people had no access to clean drinking water, and we've been able to change their lives in a positive manner. So that's enough from me. Let's move on and hear from the other team members here at Rynearson. And as you listen to people talk about their careers and their impact on communities, remember that you can learn more about architecture, construction, and engineering by being a part of the ACE Mentor program in your high school. And hopefully your teacher would be able to provide some additional information to you on the ACE Mentor program. Thanks a lot.
My name is Rob Vanderveen. I've been working at Rynearson for 8 years now. I'm a senior project engineer in the civil design department. Before that, I went to the University of Nebraska, Omaha. Before that, I went to Miller North High School. I'm an Omaha kid through and through. So, I love the impact that I can make on my local community here. So one of the bigger projects I've had an opportunity to work on recently is the North Omaha Trail. It's an infrastructure project in northeast Omaha, and kind of the magnitude of the project is from a school around 30th and Sprague. It goes along Highway 75 to the south to around 25th and Ohio. So It's a really complex project because we're dealing with a lot of existing properties. We're weaving, in front of neighbors' houses, and going along the interstate. We're crossing it over an existing pedestrian bridge, and then again, once we're on the other side of the trail, again, we're kind of weaving through a neighborhood. And so we had a lot of coordination on the front end. We had a lot of neighborhood meetings, getting neighbors' input. People are really excited about the trail. It's a really cool and unique project, and there's different pockets along the trail that we've set aside for kind of community assets. So things that could be developed into local artwork, local community spaces. There's potential to have recreational type activities at different areas where they're kind of blank now, but it's an open slate for the community to have further input and to hopefully develop those and make it a destination that people really get a lot of positive use out of. So Highway 75 bisects a neighborhood, and through neighborhood meetings, there seems to still be a lot of hurt in the community from that decision to put the highway through there. And this trail is on both the west side of the highway and on the east side, and there's going to be a lot of resources put into both sides, and I feel like it can just be that pedestrian, that safe infrastructure project that could help bring the neighborhood back together and make it feel all like one again.
So Sam Howland, I went to school at Iowa State University for landscape architecture and environmental studies. I've been with Rynearson for almost 8 years now, I think, and my role is a landscape architect and environmental specialist. Currently at Rynearson with the environmental specialty, I focus on wetland and stream assessment designs. Through our projects, there are sometimes wetlands or streams, and the goal is to not impact those resources. So through that we do an initial field work that helps figure out what those boundaries are and where those locations are, so we can potentially not impact those resources. In some cases, we have to impact those resources, and then it's knowing the guidelines and regulations that we have to follow in the amounts that we can impact or not impact when it comes to those resources. So basically my main role is to help maintain the existing resources we have and potentially build upon those in certain instances. I call myself a fair weather surveyor. I only survey from May 1st to October 31st. So that aspect's kind of nice. I get to only go out in the nice weather rather than the cold and dreary weather. But yeah, no, it's nice to have the ability to be able to be in the field or in the office depending on what my day entails. Through college, actually Iowa State has a great program that works kind of parallel to the environmental programs at Iowa State. So actually a majority of my classes through College of Design and Landscape Architecture actually associated and work towards my double major at Iowa State. So it was just a couple additional classes that I had to take. So coming into Rynearson, I already had that experience as well as experience with the Iowa DNR doing stream assessments. So through that, one day Terry came up, said, we need a wetland specialist in-house, and I just kind of raised my hand and I was like, I've done that. So that's how LAMP kind of helped me guide my path towards environmental specialty as well as landscape architecture.
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Mike Sharp, and I'm a landscape architect. I'm a senior landscape architect here at Rynearson. I've been doing this for about 20 years or so. My education, I'm actually from eastern Iowa, so go Hawkeyes, but I went to Iowa State University and completed their landscape architecture program, graduated back in 2002. My role here at Rynearson is I'm a senior landscape architect. We have a team of 6 landscape architects and a planner here on staff. And one of the great things about the projects we get to work on is just we have a wide variety of project types that have such a great positive influence on the communities that we're working on. They run the full gamut. They range from SIDs and parks and trails, schools, urban development, mixed use, you name it, we do it. So that's one of the great things that we get to do as our team of landscape architects is we get to influence and impact so many different areas throughout our community. So when we're working on a project, we have the unique experience to work with architects and engineers and kind of tie those two professions together. And when we're working on a project, we really focus on 4 or 5 main parameters, and that would be inclusivity, circulation, the user experience, safety and security, and sustainability and environmental factors. So our work at Henry Doorly Zoo, we were heavily involved with HBA and working on the Glacier Bay Landing project. But from the landscape architecture point of view for the Glacier Bay Landing, we were very instrumental in the pathways of circulation, looking at places to sit. There were some different playground amenities. There's a space for mothers to do a nursing area, so we had to be obviously focused on privacy and what that meant in terms of different elevations and grade change and screen fences. We also had to look at the everyday little things like the user experience in terms of where are you going to park your strollers and making sure that that's out of the way of the tram and the different ebbs and flows of people congregating throughout the pathways there. So we are also looking at working with our engineers in terms of stormwater drainage and being conscious about the infrastructure that's there in place, and during heavy rainfall events, where does all that water go? And obviously we need to be sending it in the right direction. We implemented a wetland area with a storm detention pond. If you're familiar with the project in the area, you see that seaplane that can raise up and down. So there was a lot of different design that we had a lot of integration with, not just the architects, but the civil engineers as well. Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. I've been involved with it since its inception back in 2016. In the last couple of years, I've had the privilege of being a team leader at both Papio South this year, Papillion La Vista, and last year at Omaha Central. And it's really just, I wish I had that experience back when I was in high school to really kind of help kickstart some of the ideas of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do in college and beyond. But it's a great program for anyone who's in the STEM courses, who's maybe thinking about wanting to do architecture, is maybe a little bit curious about engineering, but you don't have to have all the answers yet. And that's part of our role, is to, as lead mentors and mentors that are in the profession, to really get out there and help teach and coach and basically explain what we do on our day-to-day basis in our professional careers.
My name is Courtney Brown. I am a senior project engineer with Rynearson. I have been here for almost 8 years. Before that, I went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and graduated with a degree in civil engineering. My focus mainly at Rynearson involves traffic studies. I do some signal design, a little bit of roadway design as well. So ADA ramps are also another contribution. As a traffic engineer, one of their main goals is to provide a safer form of transportation for bicyclists, vehicles, pedestrians, everything, many other types of transportation as well. They can also improve intersections and roadway corridors in order to reduce congestion and as long with improving the safety of the roadway. So as a part of the project for Millard North, some existing intersections that were previously full movement intersections or three-quarter intersections were being removed and turned into right-in, right-out intersections. As a part of this, the traffic was being shifted all into essentially 2 intersections, and we had to figure out a way how to reroute all of the traffic internally throughout the project and get them out where they were going at these newer intersections and improved intersections. And so part of my role with that was to determine how much traffic would be going to each of the intersections, along with what improvements would need to be made in order to improve the internal operations of the project.
Zach Fergus, I'm a landscape architect and project manager here at Rynearson. I've been here coming up on 7 years. I graduated from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, actually the first graduating class through the landscape architecture program. I've been fortunate to work on a lot of community-based projects here at Rynearson, whether it's schools, parks, playgrounds, sometimes recreational trails through underserved communities. One of the projects that really comes to mind is a project we did at Wheeler Elementary, which is a Millard Public Schools elementary school. Project started as a simple rework of a playground area and an adjacent slope. Through collaborating with our engineering team and our structural engineer, we were able to actually take what would have been typical retaining walls and actually create seating walls and outdoor classroom space that can be used throughout the school day to assist with some of the educational programming of the school. The neat thing about that project is just recently we noticed that Wheeler Elementary held a community movie night, and those tiers of seating wall were filled with blankets and kids and dogs all out on a weekend night hosting or there to view a movie. Oftentimes we describe ourselves as landscape architects. The first word that people pick up on is landscape, and so it's assumed that we work strictly in plant material. And while we know plant material and it's one of the tools in the toolbox that we use, there's many other areas that we specialize in, whether it's, again, something like a seat wall, public plazas. All of these parts and pieces make up our design toolbox that allow us to activate a space and really create community spaces where people are comfortable and safe and enjoy spending time in. Plants are kind of the icing on top of that. That's how we enhance a space, create a comfortable, add another level of comfort to those spaces. There's nothing we do where we are in a silo. Everything is collaborative. Everything needs everything needs input from others, whether it's other designers on the design team or the public and the end users of the space. The best spaces that we create are those that have been directly influenced by the end user. A lot of times they know how they're going to use the space. They know how they're going to program the space. Our job is to kind of tease those parts and pieces out and implement the vision on the site. From the time I was 16, worked in the green industry, so moving trees around a nursery yard. Having been around plant material for what is now the larger part of my life, I've been able to gain experience through implementing designs with plant material, and then also finding myself in tune with local organizations that deal with planting and especially native and adapted plant material. So the healthier and more substantial tree canopy we can get through planting more of those native and adapted species that have a long life and that are adapted to our climate, the better off the community is.
My name is Nancy Predahl. I am the CEO and president at Rynearson. I graduated from the University of Nebraska, Omaha campus, and with a degree in civil engineering, and I have a master's degree in organizational leadership from College of St. Mary. So I came at this from a very non-traditional path. I didn't go to college right out of high school, and I had kids when I was younger and stayed home with them for a bit and then went back to school. And I was always really good at math. So when I was in school, folks weren't telling me about engineering. They weren't encouraging me to be an engineer. Math teacher was about all the options that I was told about. So I started going back to school and took classes and really good at math, and was sitting in the room with a bunch of young men, and they were all going to be engineers, and so I explored that path. So very non-traditional route. But I do know that if I had been encouraged to investigate it earlier in my school days, I might have found that path quicker. We did a project in Papillion, Shadow Lake, that was 2 lakes, included the construction of 2 lakes, 2 dams, and we put in areas where there could be wetland growing. We put in buffers around the lakes so that we could protect the aquatics, the fish that would be able to add it to the lakes. Then we also put in 3 miles of trails around the lakes so that when people moved to the neighborhood, they had all of these amenities there. And I think that as engineers, we get the opportunity to really help influence projects and add to the quality of life for people in our community. I think it's really important that as engineers, we think about equity and what infrastructure, how it impacts equity. There are rules that have been in place for a long time and practices that have influenced folks' ability to garner wealth as one example. There's a practice called redlining that started in the 30s and 40s that really limited people of color with the opportunity of obtaining wealth through home ownership. And so what we're doing at Lamp Rynearson, as one example, is educating ourselves on what these practices were, these historical practices that impacted people of color negatively over the years. So we're educating ourselves. We're looking at how we can influence projects, working on affordable housing projects, thinking about how our projects we might engage the community so that the community has an opportunity to have input on projects. We're working on a project in North Omaha, the North Omaha Trail, where there was a lot of community outreach so that neighborhood art could be incorporated so that the community really has a voice in how the project is designed. We don't always get that opportunity to work like that on projects, but where we can and when we can, we want to make sure that we're really thinking about the big picture of the quality of life of the community we're working in.
So there you go. Those are some of the people at Lamp Rynearson, some of our engineers and landscape architects talking about how our work positively impacts people and communities. Remember that as you consider careers. If you want to make a positive difference in your community, if you want to make life better for people, you'd be hard-pressed to choose better careers than architecture, construction, and engineering. And remember that the ACE Mentor program is a way that you can get exposure to all these careers while you're in high school and learn more from people in all these fields and get experience on real-life projects that you can take with you into college. Thanks again, and have a great school year.